Hello once again, clients, designers, and visitors alike. Here we are again with another How It's Made in the Graphic Design Industry at gonink.com. Today we're going to talk about gradients. What is a gradient exactly? Well, basically it's two different colors. Simply put, it is two different colors, but one is darker and one is lighter. That's the best way I can put it right now. So really basically, let's say up here we have our dark green and we have a light green. So the difference between those two is what makes up our gradient. I know that sounds a little confusing, just bear with me here. Gradients are pretty popular in websites. Well, they're extremely popular in websites, and they're sometimes found in print, but they're quite difficult to reproduce with high quality and precision. Reproducing this feature in print has some of the same difficulties that we mentioned in our previous post about drop shadows. And there's quite a few programs out there that offer the ability to create gradients, but the more widely used Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator are more common, and today we'll be using Photoshop. So let's go ahead and start off with this button right here. Okay, this is going to be a graphical button, and we're going to show two different states. Now, what we mean by states has nothing to do with the election year this year, but what it means is that little animation you see when you roll your mouse over the button. It might change colors, change brightness, whatnot. So let's go ahead and just add a gradient to this, okay? So we've got a gradient overlay here in our layer styles, and we're going to go ahead and pick a green, maybe. Okay, let's go ahead and that looks pretty close to a gonink green. And then we're going to change the white to a darker green. We don't necessarily want it to be dark, but we don't want it to be terribly off the wall, if you get my drift. So let's go ahead and just pull this down here a little bit. If I can find a green. That doesn't look too bad right there. Let's just go ahead and go with that. It's simple enough. Okay, so there you are. There's our button. I mean, instantly like that, we have a green button. Okay, but I like to have the dark on the bottom. That's a more popular and widely used format today. So I'm going to go ahead. If I'll move this out of the way a little bit, hopefully you'll be able to see it. If I spin this angle option right here in the Layer Styles palette, you'll see that now the dark is on the bottom and the light is on the top. So again, I'll show it. Here it is at maybe at 90 degrees. Dark is at the top, light is at the bottom. If we pull it to negative 90 degrees, it's dark at the bottom, light at the top. So there we are. There's a gradient. Quite simple. However, like I mentioned before, there might be a rollover to create a different state. So what's going to happen is there's actually two different graphics used when graphics are actually used. There's another idea that we could talk about, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So what might happen is now this is going to be lighter. So we'll take this green and we'll go ahead and crank up its brightness there, and then this green here, and we'll go ahead and crank up its brightness a little bit more. And you can see now we have this brighter button. So what happens is, I'll show you sort of an example here. When you roll your mouse over it, this is what happens. Here it is. You haven't rolled your mouse over it, and then you roll your mouse over it, and it turns to green. Off, on, off, on. So that's basically a gradient. So the next time you're thinking about gradients and you want to use it in your print, please consider how easy or not easy it is to reproduce it. But if you need it in web, there should be no restrictions on it whatsoever, especially with today's broadband access and the ability and the new knowledges in programming that people can use. So for now, that's all we're going to talk about today. Thanks for stopping by, and come back soon for another installment of Gonink's How It's Made.